Hi book lovers, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell from the title, I'm doing something a little bit different today. I've been working on this video for the past week and a half, basically just reading the books for this video. So I decided to choose 5 books to read that were promoted to me and advertised to me through social media, specifically Facebook and Instagram, as well as Instagram stories. It took me a little bit over a week to finish all of these books. It's been an interesting reading week. These books are ones that I had never heard of before. 2 of the authors I had no idea even existed. I've kind of made it my 2019 goal to read more like debut authors and new to me authors, just because these days I tend to stick with, authors I know, and I never really venture outside of that because I know what I like and I stick to it. So I thought this would be the perfect way for me to discover new authors, or at least new books. But before I get into the 5 books and what I thought of them, I thought I would share with you all my findings on all of these promoted posts on Instagram and Facebook. So I spent like half an hour some afternoon just scrolling through my Facebook and Instagram feed. I spent about 15 minutes on each social media website, just scrolling and screenshotting at every romance author promoted post. And by the end of it, I came out with 23 separate promoted posts all across Facebook, Instagram, and Instagram stories. Facebook had 14 of these promoted posts versus Instagram's 9, 2 of which were on Instagram stories. So I definitely came across more promoted posts, more ads for books on Facebook than Instagram. I actually had to scroll a lot through Instagram to find these promoted posts. I didn't come across them as often as I did through Facebook. Facebook, it seemed like every other new post was an ad, whether it was book related or not. And then Instagram definitely took like maybe 3 or 4 posts before I would get to an ad. My Instagram stories had very little book promotions compared to those 2. I actually had to tap and scroll so much more just to find book related stuff. I still got ads, right, but they just weren't book related or even romance related. I did skip over some non-romance book promotions though, because I do follow, general publishers and they publish not just romance stuff, but it was still only 1 or 2 book related posts that weren't romance stuff that I skipped over and didn't count for this group. So of the 23 book ads, 9 of them were from authors and publishers that I already, like on Facebook or follow on Instagram. The rest were completely new to me. Like I never heard of most of these authors. Of the 23 promotions, 1 of them came from an actual publisher, Avon Books. 2 of them were from some general like page or blogger page, although this one reverse harem bullying page only had 1 post on their page, so I'm not sure what the point of that page was, whether it was just created by that author to promote that 1 book that I saw in the ad. I don't know. The other Facebook page was a little weird too. It had 200,000 likes, and the post had over 10,000 likes itself, but the page, I went to it and it seemed like it was just a promotional page for like 2 or 3 authors. Only 3 of the books that were promoted were non-indie. They were published through traditional publishers. The rest were all indies, and actually 1 of them was for an audiobook, which I thought was really interesting. 3 of the promoted posts were actually for free books. Like completely free, not just free on KU, Kindle Unlimited, but this does make sense to me. You want new readers to give your books a try, and there's no better way to try your books than with a free book, right? And if the reader enjoys that free book, they'll probably buy more of that author's books. So this kind of marketing does make sense to me. Only 5 of the promoted books were not on Kindle Unlimited. The rest, 18 of them, were on KU, and somewhere on the promoted post there would be like free on KU. And of course, of the 5 non-KU books, 3 of them were from publishers. The other 2, Corinne Michaels and Carla Sorensen, Romanson's books are not on KU. So those were my findings on all these romance book promotional posts on Instagram and Facebook. This was the first time that I ever sat down and even thought about these promotional posts. I mean, I see them every day, but I just scroll past them, you know, I don't really think about them. I mean, sometimes they have really interesting covers or interesting graphics that do make me take a look at it a little bit more, or it's some quote that sounds really interesting. 95% of the time I skip past them. Do you do the same? Do you ever click on these book ads when you come across them? Have they ever worked for you? I actually really enjoyed 2 of the books that I chose, so that was interesting, and it kind of makes me want to give more of these ads a try. On to the books that I chose. I chose 5 books that were completely new to me, books that I'd never heard of before, and I probably never would have without these promotional posts. Like I said before, I got 9 ads from authors and publishers that I already knew and follow, so I already knew about the books that were being promoted, like Andy J. Christopher, Corinne Michael, A.L. Jackson, Candy Steiner. Like, all of those authors are fairly known, so I chose not to read the books that were being promoted from them. I chose to read Dr. Dan by Kay Webster, who I do know and have read before, but I don't really follow her or keep up with her books, so I'd never heard of Dr. Dan before. Dragon's Bounty by Millie Taden. I have heard of Millie Taden before, but I've never read her, never heard of this book. I also read Hate the Game by Winter Renshaw. I have read her books before. I did not like them, so I don't keep up with her. These Monstrous Ties by KV Rose. This is a completely new to me author. I've never seen her name before. And Double Exposition by Jerica Macmillan. Same with this author, never heard of her before. This cover is probably my least favorite of the 5, and I definitely would have scrolled past it if I'd come across it in my feed as a promoted post. Covers definitely do make a difference when it comes to whether it makes me want to take a second look at it, at least for me. So this is one that I definitely would have skipped over and missed out on. So these 5 books were all on KU, which is good for me because I have KU for the month. And the first one that I read was Dr. Dan. I knew before going into this one that Kay Webster, the author, is pretty known for writing, you know, taboo and forbidden love kind of romances. I read 2 of them, and they were both like Age Gap and Forbidden Love, and Dr. Dan was yet another one of these kinds of romances. This one is about a doctor who is 45 and his much younger patient, so it's definitely got the age gap and the forbiddenness to it. This one ended up being only okay to me. Like, it's a really short read. It's pretty hot and smutty, but I didn't like these characters very much. I got super frustrated with the heroine who, like, the reason why she has to go see the doctor hero who works in the ER is because she has like abdominal pains. She talks about peeing blood and just intense pain, but she tries to ignore it and not go to the doctor until the very last minute. Even the first time that she goes to the ER and meets Dr. Dan, she brushes off the pain and brushes off her symptoms. She makes it seem like her illness, whatever it is not that serious, and she goes home because she doesn't want to be at the hospital. So I grew to really dislike her character, at least in the first half of the book, when she pushes off all of her illness and sickness symptoms. I just wanted to yell at her to go to the freaking hospital and get checked out, and she just would refuse to. Granted, she is like 18 or 19, so she's really young, but at the same time, she's not stupid. She knew that her mother died of a kidney illness, and now she has abdominal pain, so it's like, connect the dots. The romance itself is okay. It's a short book, so there's not too much development going on. Like, they meet for the first time at the freaking hospital, right? And they definitely definitely feel a connection to each other, definitely lust at first sight, and they have some really hot times together and they fall hard and fast, but a big portion of the romance centered around Lauren's illness. The second half of the book was actually really depressing. I went from feeling really annoyed at Lauren to feeling really sad and depressed for this girl. The second half of the book is definitely a lot more emotional than the first half of the book, where, you know, you just focus on this really hot new forbidden love between a 45-year-old and an 19-year-old girl. The book wasn't bad, but it just wasn't for me. I mean, I typically love age gap and forbidden romances, but this one was just an okay read and I gave it 3 stars. My second book was a fail because I just couldn't finish it. I had to put it down. It was a DNF for me. This one was Dragon's Bounty by Millie Taden. I was really excited for this one too because it was the only paranormal romance one of the 5 that I chose. I've heard of Millie Taden before. I know she writes paranormal romance and I've been wanting to read one of her books. So I thought, you know, why not read this one? Sadly, it did not work out for me. I made it to about 30% before I stopped and just couldn't finish. Dragon's Bounty is book 3 in the Night Flame Dragon series, and from my impression of it, it could not be read as a standalone. I thought it could be because it's a new couple. It's actually a menage, threesome kind of paranormal romance. The heroine and 2 heroes, but I started reading this and I was completely lost. It felt like I was thrown into the middle of the story and I didn't know the beginning of it. There is no development of this new alien world that takes place in this book. There's apparently some new world and some alien race that lives on that world that some humans that are chosen as surrogates are sent to. And I only know this because I had to reread the blurb like 5 times to make everything in the book that I read make sense. The start of the book, like, the main characters are already together. I mean, one of the guys has trouble with the other 2, but the heroine is already a surrogate. Whatever a surrogate even is, I'm not sure if it means like babies or just like a mate. Very little made sense to me. Clearly, I probably should have read this from the beginning. There are like 10 different characters that are introduced. A few of them were clearly couples from the first 2 books in the series. I didn't really grow to care for any of these characters, not even the dragon shifter heroes, which is so disappointing because I love dragon shifters. Really disappointed that I couldn't enjoy this one more. Not even gonna give it a rating because I stopped at 30%. But yeah, this is a DNF for me. So my next read is These Monstrous Ties by KB Rose. This is a totally new to me author and it seems like this is actually her second published book. These Monstrous Ties is actually book 1 of a duet, so it ends on a cliffhanger, which kind of sucked. But I knew it was a series going into this, so I didn't get too annoyed. But this one is a dark new adult romance. It centers around Halloween, this cultish secret society, and this oath that happens on Halloween night. It reminded me a lot of Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas, where it has these 4 or 5 really rich families and those sons form their own cult and they call themselves the Unsaints. I'm honestly still not exactly sure the point of their little group, what they do, why they ever even formed. That's not really told to us. Maybe it'll be told in the second book, I don't know. But that whole thing was really vague and not developed enough. The romance itself is not developed at all, but at the same time, I couldn't put this book down. It was so weird and so strange. I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it either. It was just a really interesting, but not in the best way, kind of book. The heroine, Sid, is about to commit suicide on Halloween night, and the hero, Lucifer, saves her from it, but he doesn't really save her, but push her into whatever weird oath thing that the Unsaints do on Halloween night. This all happened a year ago, last Halloween, but for that night, the rest of the night, Sid actually does not remember. She only knows that she wakes up naked and her body is sore, and her brother tells her that Lucifer actually raped her. Whether or not that's true, we find out later. But yeah, for this romance, Sid, who Lucifer calls Lilith, they actually only met each other for a few hours that Halloween night, and they haven't seen each other since for a year until the next Halloween, which is present day. So in total, they know each other maybe 4 or 5 hours max. So the romance is definitely lacking. There's this weird focus on Sid's brother. It gets a little weird and creepy when it comes to this brother. I don't know, this book was just really strange. It's like a 2.5, maybe 3 stars max for me, but maybe if you love dark romance, you might want to give this a try. It's not too dark, it's kind of like Devil's Night, like that kind of dark, light romance. I do love the cover though. It's definitely one that I would look twice at. It fits for the story, it fits for this genre, so that works. Would I read the sequel though? Probably not. I'm not that invested in this story, and I didn't like that a lot of the focus of it was on the brother rather than, you know, Sid and Lucifer. I did like that it was a Halloween related read. It's October. I kind of do want to make a Halloween-ish video, so maybe this will go on it. So this next one is Hate the Game by Winter Renshaw, and I actually really enjoyed this one. It's a really cute new adult college sports romance. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it just because the other 2 books that I read by this author I hated. I really like this one. It's your classic, really cute college romance. We've got our star quarterback who is pretty obsessed with the heroine, and for the past 4 years of college, he's been trying to get her to go out with him. She thinks he's like a man whore and a player. He's actually not. But the romance was really sweet and really cute. It was pretty easy, you know, lighthearted. I really enjoy reading about a hero who's really smitten with a heroine. It's never really explained though why Talon likes Irie so much and has been like chasing after her for the past 4 years, but that part I kind of just ignored and got over it. The heroine Irie is focused on school, just wants to finish and get to her full-time job that she has lined up, and Talon is not a factor in that. She does make this really dumb sacrifice though at the end of the book that I was not happy with. Like, she had to sacrifice something while he did not, and that was the main reason why I couldn't love this as much as I probably would have. I mean, the story itself I can't say is anything unique or special, but I mean, I enjoyed it. I had a fun time reading it. Definitely would recommend if you love new adult. It's definitely less on the steamy side than other new adult books, so if you're into that, check it out. And my 5th and last book is actually another new adult college romance. I enjoy this one too. I can't decide whether I like this one or Hate the Game more. I'm glad I ended this on a good note. No pun intended, though the book is music related. And this one is called Double Exposition by Jerica Macmillan. This was an author that I had never heard of before, never heard of this book, never seen it, but I'm really glad I read it. This is all about music and college. The heroine is a violinist, and the hero, he actually used to be in a boy band. He and his 2 brothers were like teenage heartthrobs, and it gave me so many Jonas Brother vibes. Like, imagine if the Jonas Brothers were like a one-hit wonder, and they stepped out of the limelight after that and just became normal guys and went to college. This is that book for the oldest brother, Kevin. His name is not Kevin. The hero's name is Jonathan. He's a senior in college, about to graduate, and he meets this really fun and sweet girl that he starts to fall in love with. Her name is Gabby, but she is a freshman. They're not sure where the future will take them, especially once he graduates and moves away. But they start dating, and it's really sweet and really fun. I enjoyed their characters a lot. I love the music aspect of it, how they bonded over it too. The book ends on a happy for now note. It's not a solid happily ever after. The future is still unknown for them, but it's still a fairly nice ending for their book. Apparently, Gabby and Jonathan get 2 more books following this one. I'm just not really that excited about the direction that the end of this book was taking for these characters, so probably won't be reading the next 2 books. The author does have some other new adult romances, which I'm super happy about. Those were my 5 reads, ones that were promoted to me on Instagram and on Facebook. It's been a really fun reading week, just stepping out of my comfort zone and reading new to me authors that I probably never would have read or come across because like I don't know them and my friends don't know them either. I am now a little bit behind on my arcs, but oh well. I really enjoyed doing this and I hope you enjoyed watching this too. Again, let me know what you think of books being advertised to you. Do you ever click on them? Do you ever read them? Have you ever enjoyed any of these and found a new author to love and read? Let me know. As always, all of these books are going to be in the description below. All of them are on KU. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you all next time. Bye!